it's one thing for a hero to be optimistic when he's surrounded by his friends, and it's another entirely to maintain that optimism when he's all alone. So in the next film in the series, Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix, Harry returns home for the summer, and the first time we see him, he's walking through a field alone, looking entirely miserable again, just weighed down by the tragic events of the year before, and particularly the death of a friend who he was close to. And we learn quickly that he's haunted by nightmares about those events. And to that event, one of the interesting things about the Order of the Phoenix is that it's the first film in the series to use a lot of flashbacks, where we're all constantly going into Harry's mind and seeing his memories of things that have happened before. So it's a kind of like Spider-Man 3 or The Bourne Ultimatum or Star Trek VI: The Undiscovered Country. Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix is a film in which the past begins to weigh on the hero, and he feels desolate and embittered in the moment, so he's constantly looking back at the wonderful and horrible things that have happened throughout his life. So, by the way, I should correct myself there. There are no actual flashbacks in Star Trek: The Undiscovered Country. There's just a general sense of nostalgia about what's happened before, but no matter. But going back to Harry Potter, there's after the grand and well-populated spectacle of the Goblet of Fire and the Order of the Phoenix, there is an equally powerful sense of isolation, and there's a kind of vibing off of the bedroom scene back at the beginning of Prisoner of Azkaban. There are lots of scenes in bedrooms in the Order of the Phoenix, like at the beginning when Harry's alone in his room in the dark, throwing a bit of a fit, and then another scene soon after when he's standing in a room, learning about a conspiracy that's being rigged to fight Voldemort. And even though this is a hopeful development, there's a sense of darkness and kind of uneasiness hovering in the air that is, of course, painful for Harry, but for us, kind of delicious, because, let's face it, what movie lover doesn't love a bit of cinematic angst? Now, once again, the Order of the Phoenix was a case in which the directorial reins were handed over. Mike Newell decided not to return, and so the movie was handed over to David Yates, a television director, who would ultimately go on to direct the rest of the Harry Potter films. Now, I personally am not a huge fan of Mr. Yates's direction. To me, he's very inconsistent and often kind of sloppy. But ironically, Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix, his first film released in movie theaters, mind you, it feels like he developed an energy that was just right, mainly by keeping the pace quick and using lots of montages. So there's a quickness and an intensity that mirrors kind of the height of Harry's emotions and frustrations throughout the film as he struggles to come to terms with a world where Voldemort is back and war is imminent. And so ultimately, Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix is sort of a perfect cap to a trilogy that exists within the 8 films. So we begin with the trilogy begins with The Prisoner of Azkaban, in which Harry comes to terms with the loss of his parents and overcomes that on some level. And then we move into The Goblet of Fire, as he's coming to terms with puberty and sort of the wider world around him, especially kind of different cultures, because the Triwizard Tournament brings together wizards from all over the world. And then we come to the Order of the Phoenix, where he has to step into adulthood and become a leader and lead the fight against Voldemort, which is especially hard because very few people believe him that Voldemort's back. No one wants to believe that the greatest dark wizard of all time is at large again. So Harry is forced into a situation where essentially he's one of the... it's kind of the classic myth of the one sane man in the room of insane people, where he's trying to persuade people, trying to lead them into battle. And so while Harry Potter is a great and wonderful and magnificent series of films, it's to me it's these three that are the ones that are truly masterful, because of what Alfonso Cuarón, Mike Newell, and David Yates managed to create by finding new and just extraordinarily inventive ways to realize what J.K. Rowling originally wrote in the books, and the result is something just I don't want to say, I know I often say this, but I'm going to say it again, I don't want to just emphasize the visual power, because, you know, these are incredibly human movies with performances that are both warm and witty and dramatic and have a lot of life to them, a lot of life that most blockbusters don't have. But I think beyond that, anyone who's read the Harry Potter books understands the character arcs and the internal dilemmas raging within the characters. So I think the movies were essentially walking the path in terms of story and character that J.K. Rowling laid out. What they were contributing that was new and fresh was a sense of visual design and ways to envision what J.K. Rowling had written, which is to me why the greatest treasures that these three films in particular offer are things like that moment that in which Harry rides the hippogriff Buckbeak, or the wonder of the Triwizard Tournament, from the dragon fighting sequence at the beginning to the very eerily quiet underwater battle that happens later on, to the final conflict which takes place in what has to be one of the most frightening mazes ever captured on film. There's a great sequence in which there's total quiet and Harry's looking around him in the maze totally alone. And I think it's sequences like these that make the films something separate, something fresh, something that's a great success in its own right. And for me, that's what truly makes the Harry Potter films a phenomenon. Not their not the number of fan fiction sites and spin-off material, but the original work of J.K. Rowling, compounded with the way these filmmakers chose to envision what was originally written. So, for now, that concludes my thoughts on Harry Potter. This series on the best of the 2000s is going on a very short hiatus, because next week, let me just take a look at this here. Next week, I'm on Wednesday, January 22nd, which happens to be my birthday. You'll be seeing a video that I'm doing with Maxwell Myers and Mo Shawnette about the Oscars, in which we react to the nominations. And then after that, on Friday, January 31st, this series will resume as I talk about The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. So be here as we journey into the wonderful world of Douglas Adams. Thank you very much.